Listen,
Never in my life associated the word boring with baseball.
we know what's up.
Me? Yeah. Famous? Yeah.
And I'm like giddy over there smiling like, we're about to win this shit.
Did everyone give you crap? Give me a good host story.
I'm not picking it up.
We both love the game.
We talk about it every day.
Get on baseball.
Having some popcorn, you're fooling around your phone.
I'd have to wait in line for 3 hours.
Hang on, because it's about to be a wild ride.
There is no human being or other creature on the planet who I'd rather be talking to right now than Brian Abraham, farm director of the Boston Red Sox, for the latest edition of Wasabi Hot Tech, where technology meets baseball and ... other things. Thank you, Brian, for joining us.
No, Rob, thanks for having me. I appreciate the kind words.
Wow. Well, I save it for literally everybody I have on the podcast. So, but it always gets a smile. It always gets a smile. Although I did it with JJ Piccolo the other day, and he kind of cracked a smile. I always like to break down the smiles. He kind of cracked a smile. But, the executives are a little bit tougher.
Yeah, we like to keep a tough exterior,
You do. You do. Yeah. Except for Hazen when he just says, you're full of crap. And so,
yeah, he's unique for sure. I feel like I come from a part of the Hazen tree, so I sometimes can wear my emotions on my sleeve as well. I don't know if he'd want me to be a part of his tree.
Hold on. Let me check. Let me just text him. Brian Abraham just said that you're part of his tree or your tree. So yeah, well, everyone needs a tree. So anyway, I do want to thank you sincerely for jumping on board, and I want to talk about where technology meets baseball when it comes to minor leagues. We don't want to give away any trade secrets or anything else like that, but we were just talking, and I'm glad that you're on, because this is this talk about what's important, which is you guys have people typically this time of year. You have people in Florida, right?
Correct.
How many? So just to give an idea, how this time of year, as we're sitting here in the middle of October, who's there typically?
Yeah. So we've transitioned a little bit the way we've done things in the past. I think traditionally in baseball circles, this has been a time for instructional league. It's usually a couple weeks, maybe a month. Sometimes organizations play other teams. We've transitioned a little bit away from that over the past couple years. This year has been pretty much just a focus on off-season training. So we didn't call it instructional league. We didn't call it the fall performance program. We invited 50 or so players to come to Fort Myers and train with the fully staffed group on the strength side, medical side, baseball side from the end of September until the beginning of the dead period in November. So that would be kind of the phase one. And then, we'll plan to have some players come after New Year. But as of right now, or this current group, we've had about 50 active players, healthy players, plus rehabbers, plus, our staff that is based out of Fort Myers, as well as some visiting staff that is supporting it. So a pretty large contingent that is currently or had been based in Fort Myers until the recent weather that has obviously come up.
Yeah. So take me through what's going on now.
Yeah. We've unfortunately had to deal with this a few years since I've been farm director. A few years back, Fort Myers got hit directly. This year we had some conversations this weekend about the hurricane potentially hitting the Fort Myers area, and to kind of pull the curtain a little bit. Sunday we ultimately just decided we had to evacuate the players. Better be safe than sorry. Obviously, we want them there to train. Obviously, we want them there to work out. But I think I talked to the Twins. They were sending their players back and their staff back. So we sent our domestic players. We got them all flights home, or some of them drove home, similar to staff. And then, we have about, I think, 15 to 18 international players that were in Fort Myers. So we actually sent them across the state, put them up in a hotel, gave them meal money with some staff members to make sure that they'd be okay. And the hopes that, obviously you don't want the hurricane to hit anywhere. I'd say specifically for Fort Myers, depending on the damage or how severe it is, they could potentially come back to Fort Myers as soon as the end of this week, next week, or we could, potentially be sending all these players home and hoping that they're able to work out either at their Dominican Academy or at home. So certainly a tough situation. I think first and foremost, we're dealing with people here. We're dealing with families. We're dealing with real life. And we need to make sure that is a priority, safety and concerns. And, obviously, like I said, we have a lot of Fort Myers-based staff that live there and that have had to move away from their homes. We have Sarasota-based staff. We have Tampa-based staff. And I think it's just the reality of us dealing with a lot of things that are not just baseball related and making sure our staff and players are taken care of the best we can. There's a lot that we can't control here, but we can control making decisions to make sure that they can be home for their families, make the proper preparations that they need to do to be safe and take care of their loved ones.
So have you had to do, like you said, you've dealt with hurricanes before. Have you had to do anything to this extent before?
A few years back, I forget exactly the one where Fort Myers actually got hit pretty dead on. There was obviously a lot of damage, and we ended up having to send everyone home. We canceled all off-season training that year. I believe that was 22, I think 22, that 21 to 22 year. We and I think the government and American Red Cross was based out of JetBlue. So we weren't even able to use the facilities. We were trying to support the people of Fort Myers, the people of Fort Myers Beach the best we could. I think that's pretty well documented. The city and especially the beachfront area got pretty severely hit. So I think for us it was focusing on rebuilding the community, supporting the best we could with players and staff, raising money, and trying to take care of the people that are a community of the Red Sox. While it is not our based home, it is our southern home for sure. And I think for a lot of us that travel down there for 2 months of the year and then throughout the season, it's a big part of our lives and a part of our family. So this is the next closest we've had to this, and obviously thoughts and prayers. Saw a lot of people down there. Hopefully they're able to be safe and again make the proper preparations needed to take care of their loved ones. And
so, like you said, I mean, you're not the only. You have the Twins there in Fort Myers. Yeah. You have up and down. You have the Rays. You have the Pirates. You have the whole the Orioles.
Yep.
And so I think this is. I'm glad we're having this conversation because I don't think people really are thinking about this. Everyone is understandably focused on playoff baseball, and also they're like, "Oh, there's no Florida teams in the playoffs right now. It's all good." But it's
yeah.
And
every team has players and staff.
And it's not in Arizona. It's not the Arizona Fall League, but this is very real problem. So
I mean, I think every team at this point runs a complex 12 months out of the year. The offseason, I think, is where a lot of our younger players, in our opinion, make the biggest gains. And the more players we can get to Fort Myers in the offseason, the better, because we have the ability to train them one-on-one, the ability to track them. And I know this podcast is about technology, the ability to collect data and use information to better help them prepare for the season ahead.
Well, perfect segue. That's why you're a pro. All right, let's talk about some of the technology that you're using because this is a really good time to talk about this because of exactly what you said. You're getting a lot of baseline stuff to measure. Before it was, hey, show up in your rubber suit, lose some weight after smoking cigarettes for 5 months, and let's go get them now. Maybe not, but still, everything there is. You get your store of information through technology as much as you can. Take me through how that process is going and how that happens.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's not just the player development umbrella. There's a lot of different departments within baseball ops that are probably a little bit more behind the scenes, whether that be an R&D department, a sports science department, on top of just the baseball department, that are doing background work, figuring out what type of technology is best suited for player use, best used for coach use, best utilized for gathering information and providing it directly to the player, providing information just to collect information so we can make informed decisions in the long run. So, I think at this point, most clubs probably have access to very similar technology or very similar information. And then ultimately, it's just how we break it down, how we utilize it, what we ask out of our players, and what information we value and what information we see as the most important drivers of success, whether it be on the baseball field, whether it be in the weight room, whether it be nutritionally in terms of body comp, whether it be workload management, all those types of things. So I think in all facets of the game, we use tech. It could be as simple as batted ball data. It could be as simple as pitch data, but it also gets as, I think, intimate as body comp, understanding lean body mass, skeletal muscle mass, nutritional type information that we can dig into with different types of testing and getting a better feel for where guys are physically. And then, again, like I mentioned, the workload capacity, which is really, really important when you have guys that are training all off season, training all preseason, and then going out to play, hopefully 162 plus games, understanding where they are and allowing them to perform optimally, and then allowing them to exceed maybe levels that they had achieved the year before. So everything we do is measured. Everything we do is tracked.
Yeah, everything is measured. Like
Yeah.
everything. And that's one of the things is throwing a baseball, hitting a baseball, running, like every single thing is measured. Holy crap, everything is measured. I would not want to be measured especially, I think maybe even more in the minor leagues, because again, you're doing all this stuff under that controlled environment where the major league players they do it during the season, but they're going home. Like it would seem like it's measured even more for your guys, right?
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, for us, I think the argument is we want to track progress. We want to track the training. We want to track the food intake. We want to track the work that's being done to show guys that they are progressing on the positive side, or potentially maybe they are regressing or doing something that is hurting what they're physically doing. So, you can train all winter to improve your velocity, to improve your bat speed, to get stronger. But if you don't have the ability to track where you're going, whether it be from week to week, whether it be from month to month, and have certain touch points and particular goals that you're looking at, it's really hard to say at the end of the X amount of time that you're progressing or moving in the right direction. So I think that ultimately is the why we are doing it. And I think other clubs probably feel the same. And with that, we can provide more insight to players about, hey, if you do X, Y, and Z, we feel like you're going to have the success that you want to have and that we want you to have. And this is how we're going to be able to track it. And this is how we're going to be able to provide you with the information to see how you're doing. So I think most of the things I'd say almost everything we track is very visible to players. We're very transparent about it. It's not a secret. Obviously, there's more in-depth information that, you probably have to dig a little bit more to find. But ultimately, at the end of the day, everything we do is provide the players, whether it be via scoreboard, whether it be on bulletin boards, whether it be through different apps, that they can see their own progress and understand, where they are and then ultimately where they're trying to go. So it's definitely the game has changed in that sense. But I also think it gives players a much better understanding of where they stand individually and then relative to other players in the organization. And quite frankly, the best we can do to other players within baseball so they can see if they are, moving in the right direction towards the success that they want, or staying stagnant, or potentially maybe falling behind. So it allows for honest conversations. It allows for realistic conversations about where they are, where they need to go. And, I don't think there's really any other way to do it at this time in the world. It can be a lot, but I also think it provides real, transparent, honest information that players and kids these days, quite honestly, really want.
Yeah, well, they want, and also you don't want to show up in February saying, "Oh, I thought I was in shape, but really I'm not." Because we like evolution. 2 years ago, I wasn't saying at the beginning of a podcast, there's nobody I'd rather talk to than you, right? I've evolved. I understand that
Appreciate that.
this makes people feel good, makes me feel good. I've evolved. So speaking of evolution, in 2 years, a lot of this stuff, give me something that you are doing now that you weren't doing 2 years ago in terms of what we're talking about, in terms of Brian, I know for instance, the catapult things, right? The catapult, which are, in case people don't know what they are, they sort of look like well, things all you put on your torso, and they measure a lot of different stuff, heart rate and everything else.
Yeah.
But what is some of, I love like the new things. So give me something new that wasn't there maybe 2 years ago.
I don't know if the things are necessarily new within the past 2 years, but I think we're just doing a better job of understanding as an organization what we really value on the pitching side, what we really value on the hitting side, understanding what those key performance indicators are, and then tracking those for each individual player. So, a player comes in, he does X, Y, and Z well, having that baseline like you talked about, and then progressing towards a particular goal that we have set for them or that player sets for themselves. I think that is what we've done a much better job of. And I think there's always going to be a subjective piece to evaluating baseball players and looking at how someone throws, how someone hits, and that's incredibly important. How someone deals with in-game situations and how they manage different at bats and counts and situations late in the game, early in the game, all those types of things. That really matters. But I think anytime we can measure something to have a better idea of what the performance actually is versus what we think it is, I think that just helps us to support the decisions that we ultimately need to make, that ultimately we get evaluated on as front office members and leadership within the organization. So I say it's more just taking looking at the information that we have, doing a better job of utilizing it, and then making those informed decisions based on that information. And I think that information is a little bit more black and white than maybe it used to be because of the different tech that we use. It might not just be for a pitcher who's playing catcher on a throwing progression. It might not just be throws that pitcher is making. It might be the throws that they're making plus the intensity, which is, evaluated by the velocity that pitch is being thrown at. It's not just, hey, this guy's throwing 50%. He's throwing it 50 miles per hour, and that signifies the actual effort level that pitcher is throwing relative to what they normally would throw at that particular time. So I think it's just taking the information that we have always had, putting a better informed, measured number to it, and then using that information to make more informed decisions.
I'm going to give you advice. Put those portable TrackMan contraptions inside, lock them down. Those things are going to blow away.
Yeah,
like
we've taken care of.
Yeah, well, those in case people don't know, this is what we're talking about. Like, and I talk about the evolution. I remember when there was a couple TrackMan things scattered around the park, and now every single mound has. I'm right. I'm not.
Yeah, no. There's a great. This is a while back, but there's a great picture. I think it was of Brian Bannister and Dave Bush. Both are incredibly successful. Dave Bush, obviously a major league pitching coach. Brian Bannister, I think, he's an assistant GM now. And there's a picture of them when we first started using TrackMan, of them holding the TrackMan, I guess, across the backfields at JetBlue. And it's come a long way. Where
that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it was a long time ago, but it probably was only a few years ago. But I think it just shows, now they're set up, pre workout. They're consistent on every mound. There's not a pitcher is not going to throw a bullpen or throw a side without having a TrackMan set up. I think it's
incredible.
It just wouldn't happen.
No, and by the way, I have that picture, and Dave Dombrowski's son is catching in it. So, one of the things I wanted to ask you, you talk about measuring, and measuring is you have the stuff that we're talking about, the physical measurements, and then you have the end of the year measurements, which can be statistics. And I've been meaning to ask you this because I saw something say that the Red Sox minor leagues value this stat in hitting maybe above everything else, and it's xWOBA. Is that? I mean, would that be accurate?
I'd say that's a pretty valuable stat for us. Yes.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, again, this. Tell me why that stat is at the if we're doing power rankings, that's near the top.
I think whenever you talk about stats, there's different reasons or ways to look at those stats and say why they could be valuable in a particular situation. I think for xWOBA, it's going to show different things that a hitter does that would determine their ability to have sustained success at the plate, hitting the ball hard, hitting at the right angles, getting on base. And I think it also shows the ability to remove luck, to remove maybe a ball hitting the right spot at the right time, which again are all great things. And at the major league level, a blue pit, or as our double A hitting coach Chris Hess would call it, the salty knock. Those are all great. But I think when you look at a stat like X4, where you're talking about consistency, you're talking about the ability to sustain, the ability to impact the baseball and do damage. And I think that is why we value that particular stat. Again, that's one. There are a lot of others that I think probably can represent performance and consistency and sustained success as well. But I think that kind of is a well-rounded value that we look at and utilize for our players and educate our players about, and understand that you could go 0 for 3 in double A and have 3 really hard hit balls at the right angles, swing at a really good pitch, and they might all be outs. But over the long run, over the long term, there's more likelihood that those are going to be hits and impactful bat to ball instances than maybe going 3 for 4 with 3 bloop singles over the shortstop or second baseman's head. So I think it just allows us to make, as I said earlier, like with technology, it allows us to make better informed decisions and link batted ball data and success that players are having to more sustainable and consistent success, versus basing it just on some numbers that maybe represent current success or current positive offensive numbers or attributes that might not necessarily tell the whole picture or represent really how a player is performing.
So what you're saying is, if there's a stat draft, that's the number 1 overall pick.
I'd say it's in contention for sure.
Ooh, okay. I just was curious about that. So before I ask you one last question, actually 2 last questions, is there any other technology that you love that this is like, I was doing an exercise today at the gym, Brian, because you don't get this by just sitting around. And I was like, I really like this exercise. Like, I am prioritizing this exercise. I like it. Is there a piece of technology where you like that, which you like, I really like this? I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be the most impactful, but I really find this fascinating.
I think one of the things that I think that our hitters have really bought into is our uses of smash balls. I'm sure you've seen them. They're very similar look to baseballs, but they're a little bit softer. So you can use them at high speeds. You can use different breaking balls. You can use them in machines. And players, I think, really like them because they are more confident when they can swing at a full speed and have a more intense training session, not feel like they're going to hurt their hands or break their bat. So it's a very small thing. And, teams use dimple balls, teams use, a bunch of different versions of that particular, I would say it's a piece of tech that hasn't been utilized for too long. But, since Jason Ochard has come by and come through and John Soteropoulos, that's something that we've used, and our players have really bought into it. And it doesn't have the same trajectory as a regular baseball. It goes a little bit further, it comes off the bat a little bit faster. But in terms of what we're trying to do in terms of a competitive training environment, a high intensity training environment where players are failing and struggling, but also improving, it is a really nice piece that we were able to add to those sessions that I think allows players to feel a little bit more comfortable in the sense that they can swing as hard as they want and train properly like they would in a game situation where maybe while they might not think they are, it might be a little bit subconscious where they're not going to swing as hard because they don't want to break their bat or hurt their hands.
I like that. That's a great answer. I actually thought you were going to go, somebody told me that you guys had the only traject machine in AAA.
We do have that. It's pretty sweet.
I mean, that's, if nothing else, I mean, you don't put up banners for it, but that's because, and I got to imagine, like, it's amazing to me that more major league teams don't have traject. Like, it's crazy to me. It's crazy. And then,
it's expensive. I mean,
well, it's expensive, but you know what? You know what? It's, I don't know. People have money. What is it? It's like $800,000, whatever. It's so, but still the value, having seen the value of that at your AAA team in Worcester, where not only for the players there, but when rehabbing players like come down, like this is something that I feel like you guys, good investment on you guys.
Yeah, I mean, to me, when we're talking about a player needing to work on fastballs up in the zone or breaking balls down and away, you can see those pitches and work on that consistently um, through traject, and you get a ton of reps. Again, the baseballs are not necessarily real balls that you would have to use out of there, so it's a similar feel to the smash ball. So it is a very game like. I mean, it's as close to a game like situation as a game. I'll give you a nice little feedback we got from Traject. We were told that the Boston Red Sox used the most baseballs were fed out of Traject machines by the Boston Red Sox out of any club or organization. So it is something that our players very much like and utilize, and we like to think that it helps improve different stats like
there's two questions that immediately jump to mind. Number one, well, yeah, because you have a one in the minor leagues, so you have an extra one, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Number two, how would they ever know that?
It's all goes back to a master computer. You know, somewhere in the clouds, they have all this information. I think. You know, if a ball falls out of the traject, there's a ding at the traject headquarters that says Boston Red Sox +1.
Well, you should give Tristan Cassis some like a piece of stock in the company then, or something. I don't know, because I'm sure that. I mean, you probably led the league in the most times using a traject machine without swinging a bat.
That's all right too. I mean, it's great for a lot of different things. It's great.
It's great.
Steve, it's great for just tracking. It's a like I said earlier, like we're very, very, very lucky to have ownership and leadership that provides us these types of tools. I mean, to have 3 of them in the organization,
you have one in Fort Myers, one in Boston, and one in Worcester. Is that right?
Yes.
And again, a lot of major league teams don't have one, and as far as we know, nobody has them in the minor leagues. So
I'm not exactly sure, but I'd say for us, they're pretty valuable.
Yeah, we're gonna run with it.
Yeah.
All right. I'm spinning the wheels of one player I'm going to ask about. Here it is. It's coming up on Miguel Blaze. What's up with him?
He is in Fort Myers. Well, had been in Fort Myers training this offseason. I think had a bit of an up and down year this year. You know, first full season coming off his shoulder injury, really put on a ton of weight last offseason, looked great physically. What I think we saw this year, we saw flashes of the bat speed, we saw flashes of the ability to impact the baseball pull side, but I really think this offseason is going to be a little bit more focused on adjusting his swing mechanics a little bit more to get him a little bit more level and, I don't want to say upward path, but he can get a little choppy at times where he's driving balls into the ground. And it's hard to make those types of adjustments in season. But I know our hitting group and Miguel were really focused on, or are going to be really focused on, making some minor swing changes so we can get that bat path to improve his ball flight angle and utilize the bat speed and the strength that he has shown for next year. So excited about the progress he made this past year, despite the numbers not being there, because I think he showed the ability to take over a game, the ability to do a bunch of different things on both sides of the ball. I think 30 plus stolen bases, plus defense in the outfield at all 3 spots, and then a guy who can drive the ball to all fields, especially pull side when he gets a hold of it. So I think this offseason being healthy, being able to train and focus on baseball versus rehab is going to be huge for him going into next year.
Excellent answer. All right, last thing is questions of when you woke up this morning you did not think you'd be asked. Will the Abraham family spend $100 on Halloween costume?
The family? That's a definite yes.
Okay. Would you spend $100 on a Halloween costume?
I would. I'm a sneaky big Halloween dad. I like to embarrass my wife and kids. So I have not bought something yet or anything yet, but I'm sure I will dabble into that space and maybe spend a few extra bucks than I need to.
Give me your best. Give me your best costume.
Oof. One year, our family has done a couple family ones with some other families. One year we were, I don't know if I should be saying this on a podcast, but we were Beauty and the Beast, and I was the Beast. And it was a pretty good one.
All right. All right. Excellent job.
Yeah.
I like that. I was fully not expecting you to say, because I've been asking this question, and major league players, some of them, yeah, I will, of course, but then, not all of us could get major league salary. So they're like, oh, no. But that's a good answer. All right. You had a lot of good answers. This might have been your best one yet. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Rob.